All right. Happy New Year, everybody. So good to see all of you learners and readers and thinkers, pontificators,
Come on.
whatever phrase you desire to use. We are back for a brand new series in the brand new year. I'm thankful to God for what this year will mean as we get ready to jump into our second year of the Christian Leaders Book Club. It's a monthly gathering of learning, growing, and community. And so I'm so excited about it. And of course, this is our co-host, my co-host, partner in crime in this vein, the Reverend, the pontificator, the attorney, Esquire.
There we go.
The civil rights leader.
Hey man, you're not introducing me to preach now. We just having a little conversation, man. You got the official bio from the pulpit going on. You know what I'm saying?
Almost. With the writings that you've been doing, you almost got to introduce the man of God like that. John C. Richards Jr., everybody. John C. Richards Jr.
All right. Pastor Chris.
Let me give you the Steve Harvey version. Show your love. John C. Richards Jr.
Appreciate you, Pastor Christopher, man. You definitely are a pontificator on your own right and full of wisdom and insight. So grateful to be joining you and having this conversation for the rest of this year, man. We're doing another year. I'm excited about it.
Last year was amazing. Last year was incredible. And this year is going to also be good. And I'm so excited about it, man. We put together our list for this year. And I think it's going to be really, really really amazing, man, to just see what we glean from some of the discussions. I think one of the things that I'm really excited about, Pastor John, is I'm excited about the fact that we do have a book or two that there probably are some elements in the book that we may not fully agree with all the elements.
Right.
And that was intentional. So talk a little bit about that, Pastor John.
Yeah, so we both of us try to read pretty widely, and we felt like we probably needed to lead by example when it comes to reading content that you might not necessarily agree with, but will be helpful in you forming your own thought process around whatever issue it may be. And so we thought about ways where we could do that and do it in a very real practical way. And I think we got a couple of books on this list, Pastor Christopher, that are going to help us to be able to process that thought in real time for folks so that they know that we're not reading in silos. I think the problem with our culture is that we read and talk in silos, and so that we miss even what might be viable logical arguments from other folks by not reading content that they put out just because we don't like them. And so we wanted to make sure we led by example there. That's
exactly right. And challenge ourselves even. To just not stay in echo chambers, but to think through, okay, so if we do disagree with this, can we compile a cogent argument,
right,
or dialogue that is not, media sound bites, that is not social media cliches, but it's authentic, deep thinking that reflects what we would consider to be a healthy doctrinal belief, a healthy practical engagement of God's word as Christians. And what does that look like in the public square? So really excited about it. So I'm not going to go through all the books for this year yet. I want to invite you, whatever platform you're watching this on, there's a link in the chat or a link in the post about this video that you can subscribe to our email list. And this weekend, as a matter of fact, you will get an email of all of these books, the link for the books of what we're going to be reading and which months they correspond with. If you're looking at the screen, if you read from left to right, top row is the first 6 months, bottom row is the second 6 months. Those are all the books for the whole year. And again, we spent several hours. We spent several weeks compiling a list of books,
right?
And then some hours.
It was a process.
It's a process. We didn't randomly just come up with some books and say, let's do this. No, there was thought and intentionality around it. And so I want to invite you to join in with us on that email list. You'll also be privy to some other things that we may communicate with you via email as well, beyond just social media. So join our email list. The links are there, and I think you'll benefit from that. But today, or this month's book, the first book of the year, is this book by Dan Miller. And so I'm excited about this book because I think it's a great start to the year as we think about starting with intentionality about how we do our work, how we view our work, our personal brand, and all those things. 48 days to the work you love. 48 days to the work you love. And it's going to be good. So let's do this, Pastor John. Let me take this off of the screen. So let's just give a 30,000, 40,000 foot view of the book and why we selected this book.
Yeah. So I'll start with the why, because that's what Simon Sinek says we should do, right?
Come on, throw another reference of a book in there.
Another book, man. It's all about books. So starting with why we decided to do this is, man, beginning of the year, people are more receptive to trying to figure out their lives. That's why a lot of people do sermon series around that, or around stewardship, right? So I think we try to, and have tried to the past couple of years, because last year we actually did a productivity book from Carey Nieuwhof. That was a really good book, kind of thinking through how to make your life more productive. And when you read the title of this, man, anybody, when you have 48 days to the work you love, that's going to bring me in anyway. Like, oh, I can do that in 48 days. And so everybody's kind of thinking about vocation, career. Anybody who may be thinking about that, and thinking about your current vocation and career and where you want to be and where you are, this is an important conversation to have to start the year, so that you can go ahead and try to get on track to the work that you truly do love and enjoy.
Yeah, that's good. And actually, just a small correction, Pastor John, the subtitle is To the Work and Life You Love.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the title up on the StreamYard, and it says, oh, okay, The Work and Life You Love is the actual book title. Okay.
Yeah.
You got me on the StreamYard, bro.
I'm sorry. That's my fault. That's my fault.
All right.
I do think that it's worth noting. For those that are listening in, don't know who Dave Ramsey is. He is a radio host, but his brand is around finances, around money specifically, that kind of thing. And anybody that's been following or paying attention to Dave Ramsey over the years, he started out very singularly focused on money, finances, financial freedom, all those things. Over the last decade or so, he's expanded his platform and content to also include these other things that impact money. So when I read through this book, 48 Days to the Life You Love, to the Work and the Life You Love, it made sense why this would be under his brand.
Yep.
Because being able to work well and being able to approach your work well has a direct impact on your bottom line, on the money that you make or the money that you bring in. Okay. And if you don't address that, there's going to be some significant challenges, because you can't pay credit cards off. You can't be debt free. You can't, all that stuff.
Yep.
If one, you're not making enough money to value your experience, your credentials, et cetera, but also if you don't have the right mental health and mindset as you approach this. So it made sense to me. And that is not an endorsement of Dave Ramsey, to be clear, because I think that there are some challenging things about the Dave Ramsey brand as of late, but that's another conversation for another day.
For sure. Yeah. No, that's good clarity and good framework for framing the book itself too, for sure.
Yeah. I think I love how the forward and the introduction starts out talking about that really the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is not that successful people are perfect. It's that they make the decision to not allow their mistakes to be fatal or final, that they use them as an opportunity to rise above them and that kind of thing. So I think what's important for people that are coming in to read this book or to even start thinking about the framework of the book, I think it's important to acknowledge the critical nature of resilience in your career,
Yeah.
Resilience in navigating a career path, and resilience in your work. Because I find, Pastor John, there's a lot of people, the first sign of trouble, they give up and run.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you actually I don't believe, developing your career in a successful way without some level of resilience.
So, and I think that a resilient person is a rehirable person.
Come on, man. Come on. Yes, sir.
You know, if I see somebody's resume and I see that they're jumping from place to place, it shows that the resilience might not be there. It may warrant a conversation. But if I see someone who's been resilient in their career and in the work that they're doing and finding some level of joy in what they're doing as they think about transition, man, that says that that's someone I want to hire. And so that's something that folks got to think about, right?
Yeah. You know, there used to be a mindset that, and the book talks about this in the first couple chapters, there used to be this mindset that whatever job you have, you're going to stay on that job for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's not the case anymore in many contexts.
Yeah.
At the same time, the other extreme of that is, to your point, if I look at your resume, if I'm hiring and you apply for a job that I'm hiring for, and I look at your resume and you have basically switched locations or jobs or, you know, directions every 12 to 15 months.
Right.
And now you are 35, 36, or almost 40, and that's your track record.
Yeah.
Especially for a serious role, it's going to be less likely that you're going to get a serious look.
Yep.
Because your resume already tells me you ain't staying long.
You ain't staying long. If that's the track record, show me who you are. I'm gonna believe you.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
Yeah. You might as well just put on your resume, you know, contractor.
And Christopher, this is coming from somebody who has changed careers.
Yeah.
Like, I was a full lawyer before entering full pastoral ministry full time. So I understand.
Full-fledged, y'all. Full-fledged.
So I understand the transition. It's just how you transition that's important, and I think that's helpful for anybody that's looking to do that.
Yes. So you ready to jump into it?
Let's do it, man.
So the book opens chapter 1. I love this opening quote. The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. To him, he is always doing both.
That's the part that got me, man. Leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. Man, when you find that space, you're not even sure if it's work or play.
Man, what?
Woo.
What?
That's how you live right there, man. That's how you live right there.
Yeah. So here's a funny story. Many people know I got a baby girl. She's getting ready to have another birthday, elementary school age. And so career day was coming up, and the teacher, and the only reason I know this is because the teacher told my wife and I the story. So the teacher started asking the kids in her class, what do your parents do? So my daughter says, oh, my daddy makes people fall out.
That's hilarious.
So the teacher said, what? Yeah, he makes people fall out. He makes people get really excited. People love him, give him hugs all the time, and he loves to read a lot of books.
Hey, that's the truth. That's the truth. I know.
Now she's seen me preach, but in her mind, she's like, he's just preaching.
That's what he does.
That's what he does.
Yep. Making them fall out, reading a lot of books, making them laugh, hugging people. That sounds good to me, man. That sounds like a good job right there.
Man, in a child's eyes, you hear me?
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So I think, so I wrote in my margin, Pastor John, on that quote, the danger of compartmentalizing your life.
Yeah. And it's a very real danger, man. A very real danger. Yeah.
Have you done that before?
Oh, absolutely, I have. And I've seen the fruit of doing that, right? Because it could lead to that compartment being a drudgery zone, right? To where
Yeah.
you're like, man, I gotta do this, right? That's that quote in the same chapter where it's like, thank God it's Friday reinforces the idea that at last we can escape from the evil of work and do
Mm,
something we truly enjoy doing, right? Like everybody has that escapism, right? It's like I'm
mhm.
trying to get out of this compartment, but when you take those compartments away, now you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I have this joy across the board? Even in my vocation, even my career, even the work that I do. And that's what I think that opening quote really captures that well, man. But when you do that compartmentalize, it's like, man, now I got to spend 40 hours a week in this zone I don't want to be in. But how do you switch that? How do you reverse that?
Yeah. The author, I don't think he does this directly. He doesn't say this directly, and if he did, I may have missed it because I read through. But I think one of the things that should have been very clear, at least from chapter one, because the author does start talking about, in some ways the danger of just running after high paying jobs, and
Mhm.
he's not condemning having a high paying job. He's saying be careful that you put your lock, stock, and barrel on that a high paying job is a good job. That's not
Mhm.
always the case, right?
Mm.
I wish that maybe he would have said directly, make sure that your identity is in something else that is more stable
Yeah.
than just the work that you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, man. Yep. He may have missed that. Man, he mentioned it by saying like work opportunities can come and go, but
Yeah.
the direction of your life should remain constant. So it was
Yep.
kind of implicit in that,
Yep.
not necessarily as explicit as probably we would have been saying that, right? And again, when
Absolutely.
we read these books, man, we're not offering like praise all the time, right? There's definitely some critical thinking that happens where you got to think, okay, here's the way I would have said that, and both of us kind of feel that same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So that's chapter one,
Yep.
introduction, chapter one. Chapter two talks about the challenge of change.
Mm.
And again, he provides, I think, a slam dunk quote to open the man. A lot of the books that we read, have you noticed that
The
they do?
opening quote, man, it's like I got to highlight each one of them quotes opening. So now, when we think about writing, man, we got to start getting them fire quotes at the beginning.
It's just such it, especially when the quote encapsulates what you're trying to convey
Mm-hmm.
in that particular section or chapter of the book. I mean, it's just powerful, right?
Yeah.
So he says this Charles de Gaulle, I hope I'm saying that properly,
Mhm.
quote. He says a man of character finds a special attractiveness in difficulty, since it is only by coming to grips with difficulty that he can realize his potentialities.
That's it right there, man. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, and just like nobody's running after difficulties,
Yeah, I know.
but
Yep.
I think you have to embrace them. It's the reality.
Yep. We're in chapter 2.
Yeah, I'm in chapter 2. Am I in the right chapter? Hold on. I'm looking at my Kindle version.
Oh, okay. My chapter 2 has who would hire me.
Let me go back.
Okay.
Yeah. So this Dr. Seuss quote, but then this Charles de Gaulle quote is in that chapter.
Oh, I thought you said it was the opening one.
No, it's in the chapter. I'm sorry.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, he's got Dr. Seuss opening up the chapter right there at the very beginning.
Got you. Okay. Yep. I'm there with you now.
But this Dr. Seuss quote ain't bad either now.
Listen, don't sleep on Seuss. Don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on him.
Now you have brains. Go ahead.
This is interesting because, and I want to hear your perspective as someone. I mean, many of our listeners may already know this, or people that are watching this may already know this, but you have a consulting business that really captures a lot of the things that are captured in this book, right?
Yes.
So as you're going through chapters like this on who would hire me, is it like a severe head nod, like, yeah, this is what I tell my clients, my people, or are there nuances that you generally would like to add to this as people are reading through this, because we got an expert in the room, so I want to make sure I'm giving you space to be able to say, all right, yeah, this chapter was good, but here's what I would add to that.
Yeah. There's a couple things I think that he misses. That so my niche is people in ministry, people that work for not for profits, right? And I would say a couple things. Interestingly enough, Pastor John, I find quite a number of people who they start sensing, air quotes here, or feeling like a season in a specific place is starting to wind up, or a transition is coming.
Yep.
And they start operating off of emotion versus intentionality.
Woo! Talk, man.
So they start making emotional decisions, right? Like things like destroying relationships on the way out the door.
Yep.
I've seen people be in situations where their current employer is getting ready to offer them a severance or a bridge until their next thing, but because they felt the need to air some grievances or dirty laundry, that severance gets taken off of the table.
It's gone now. Yeah.
So then a week or two later, by the time they come into contact with me, the statement that they make is, the devil attacked my life. And when I get the details, right, because Proverbs tells us a story sounds true until you hear the other side.
That's right, man. That's right. Yeah.
So then because the world is very small, especially in the ministry world. So you know, almost all of us are one or two phone calls away, or one or two people away from knowing the other person, or to knowing somebody that works at that church, or somebody that, all of that.
Right.
And so then you find out, like in the the exit interview, you told everybody off, including the pastor's mama.
Everybody in the church, the mother, the deacons, the ushers, everybody you done told off. But they done told you a different story.
The devil was busy. The devil attacked my life. And no, you just didn't walk in, wisdom. You didn't exercise emotional maturity. You didn't exercise professional maturity. Because here's the other thing. This is something that, again, I think the author doesn't really address. Like, you start limiting your future options based on the number of bridges that you burn at every stop.
Listen to me, man. Because how you going to get where you're going without a bridge? Bro, and you know this. Like, many of the jobs that people get are because somebody knew somebody. They're relational connections, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And no shade to search firms, but those are relational. You're relational in what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
So people need to realize that, man.
Yes, sir.
And I'm about to start asking you questions, because he said something. He said your diploma has a built-in expiration date. We just don't like to be upfront about it. And that the world pays you for what you do and not what you know. Now, in your experience, is that true? Like, if you see somebody has a resume that has, I was about to say something, has Florida State on the
nice
on the resume, or well, a good school, you know what I mean? Does that diploma they have, as he's mentioned, have an expiration date? It's like, oh yeah, we're not as worried about where you went to school rather than your actual work experience, what you've done.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, your schooling does have an expiration date, because there should be something that accompanies the schooling.
Wow, that's good.
Right? There should be. So, and it's funny that we're having this discussion, because I just said this morning on a prayer call that if you limit your learning and you stop learning after a certain point, you are then left to only brag about what you already accomplished without ever having the possibility and potential of what could be in your future.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Look what I did back there. Look what look, Ma, I graduated from kindergarten.
Bro, what? Like, why?
So you 35, 36 years old,
and you still living there,
and you got kindergarten on your resume?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you want 6 figures.
No, that ain't gonna work. So continued ongoing learning and practical learning, like actually seeing you put the learning in practice.
Where is the expertise being exercised and implemented? After a certain point, there should be a body of work beyond the degrees, beyond the certifications, right? Now this is going to be controversial. I already know it. I'm going to say it, but I know it's going to be controversial.
Uh-oh.
Because I think, Pastor John, people don't realize certain industries, certain jobs that you reach for, you actually do yourself a disservice if your only learning was online diploma mills.
Uh-oh. All right, Pastor Christopher, you know, they about to get you.
So I'm just saying, like if you're trying to get a job in a credible, say a credible academic setting, you want to eventually be a dean. You want to eventually be an associate dean. You want to eventually be, a department head in academic space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But all of your degrees are from online learning that you've never been to a campus. And they were able to, take what a 4-year degree is and do it in a year and a half. And you took, you wrote one paper and now you got a doctorate.
Right.
And when I talk to you about qualitative or quantitative research, you don't even know what that is.
Like, what does that mean?
Right. If I start talking to you about pedagogy and you're like, I don't know what that is, that just proves that while you got the degree, you didn't get the learning. And there's a reason why there's a word that's called co-curricular, which means that these are the experiences that come along with the learning environment.
Right.
Now,
and they don't do that very well in seminary context either. Being seminary trained, like, bro, there's very little. Look at Knox talking about they coming. I told you they coming after you, bro. They coming after you. We do very little on the practical side in a lot of academic environments, and it really hurts people. It really does, man. It really does.
Like I had a licensed minister submit their information for my platform or through our firm. He had 3 doctorates, Pastor John, but had never served full time in ministry.
What? 3 doctorates?
3.
And never a day of service full time in ministry? What was he doing? Getting his schooling, as grandma say?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Man, that's a hard candidate to place.
So then you get someone like me that believes in honoring the gifts that you have enough to give you truth. Then I seem like the strange one when I say to you, you really need to start here before you come and say you're ready to be this.
Yes. And probably wasn't received well because of the multiple degrees.
No.
Which is like, bro, nobody's going to hire you. Nobody smart is going to hire you if you have no ministry experience.
Yeah.
Not for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Maybe something else.
Yeah.
But not for what you're looking for.
On the flip side of that, I've had a candidate who no degrees, full-time ministry experiences, but was fired from the last 4.
So you got 2 extremes. Oh man. Yeah, that was hard to place too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure you get a lot of unicorns in there too, though, where you get
Yes, sir.
people that's like, oh, this person's gonna be easy to place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh,
Absolutely.
that's good. So yeah,
Absolutely.
man, that's the Who Would Hire Me chapter number 2.
Yep. Who Will Hire Me chapter. And just kind of navigating. What I like to tell people is this: like, do you look good on paper, and are you convincing people on paper before they see your smiling face and your porcelain white teeth and and all of that on paper? Do you look convincing for this role?
Bruh, I just got 5 resumes for a position I'm hiring for, and to your point, on paper, I'm gonna put them right on the other side of this desk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's just on paper, you have to be compelling enough to even make it to a conversation.
Yes, sir.
Conversation. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, we got chapter 3.
Yeah.
Yes, I do have an education.
And that's interesting. He has kind of this different perspective on what education looks like and what it means, right?
Yes.
He said it's the accumulation, any experience or accumulation of knowledge that has a formative effect on the mind, spirit, character, or physical ability of an individual. So it's not schooling, it's like experiences and accumulation of knowledge, which can happen outside the academy, which I think he's not really a big advocate for academic learning.
I was just about to say that, and I was going to say I think he bypasses the reality that, again, like there, let's not be naive. There are some lanes of work and industry that 4 year, 6 years, 8 years of school is not going to help you.
Right.
Very clear about that. Very understanding about that. At the same time, there are other industries that you absolutely have to have the credentials and the skills and the learning to go along with, because it adds to your credibility to even get in the door.
Yep.
Now, if you've been able to find creative ways to get those degrees, nobody's going to fault you for that. That may take you a little bit more time, because yes, the price of a formal education is expensive. It can be expensive if you're not careful.
It's real expensive. And he quotes Mike Rowe. He says, "Man, we're lending money to kids who can't pay back to train them for jobs that no longer exist. We're training them for jobs that don't even exist and lending them money to get that training, which is crazy."
Yeah. Here's what I think is important. And I'm gonna kind of go after the conversation around parenting for a moment. Because I think this is where it's important for parents to have a honest dialogue with their children, not just about you need to go to school, but also like, why are you going? Why are we telling you need to go to school?
Yeah.
And couple that with, where do you see yourself going? What area are you passionate about? Having this conversation about gifts, talents, and abilities, because at the junction that we live in now, going to school does require an investment on the behalf of the kids and the parents, and you don't want to waste time or money. And we're at a place now where still talking about being a first generation college graduate in your family can have lingering effects.
It could, man. It could. I think we're also in the hybrid situation too, right? Because our parents didn't go to school, so the expectation was you're gonna go get your schooling. Like, I did all this hard work to get you to go to college, but now we're college educated, right?
Yes.
So now there's a second tier where it's like, now they're second, third generation students. How do we as parents lead them and guide them into spaces not where our expectations are for them, but where they're actually going to find that joy that derived that we talked about in chapter 1, right?
Yes.
So how do we get them there?
Yes. One of the greatest things that I've seen a parent do, Pastor John, this parent didn't go to school. They didn't go to college, but they had this child that was getting ready to graduate from high school and go to college. the parent connected the child to people who had been to college and brought these people along as a part of the village to help the parent so that there would not be any blind spots.
That's so good.
Because if you haven't been to school, like formally been to college,
there's
just some things you just don't know because you've not experienced it. That's not to say that you're a bad parent, but you just don't know it, right?
Yep.
So you don't know that you need to apply to certain housing or dorm rooms by a certain time if you want access to that particular dorm.
Right.
You don't know about meal plans. You don't know about orientation. I mean, you can start trying to read up on those things, but then there's certain nooks and crannies and how do you navigate stuff that you just don't know.
That's a good thought, man. So I know the path to becoming a lawyer.
Yeah.
My daughter doesn't want to be that. She wants to be a veterinarian. So one of our friends, his daughter just got her she's a doctor now, a veterinarian. And guess what? We're connecting her with her.
I love that.
Kind of carve out that path because I can't help you.
I
don't know what that looks like.
Yep.
So I think that's good, man. That's good advice, man.
Exposure matters, man.
Yeah.
And I think this guy here proves that, to your point, there's some things about formal education that he's like, and I'm not sure if that's a healthy posture to take.
Yeah, I think so, man. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So we're moving right along. I will say this though, that this list of 10 steps to education is not a bad list though.
Yeah, it's not.
Read or listen to at
great
least
books.
12 great books. That's the DJ.
Hey, that said it for us, man. Join the Christian Leaders Book Club. That's what we're doing right now. We're walking
there
through.
You go, right there. Subscribe right now. Attend 3 or 4 seminars. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And let me say this, because I wrote this down when I was reading through this list. I think that you should be such an incredible employee that your company sees the value when and where possible to help underwrite you attending those seminars.
Facts. So now
you cannot ask your boss to pay for you to go to a learning environment and you're not a good employee. It's not going to happen.
Right. I mean, you got to be able to earn that trip by being a good employee. And then don't just bring back notes, bring back practical things that you can do to provide value for the next time. It's like, hey, they came back last time and we did this great thing. We're going to send them again.
Yeah. Here's what I tell people. Here's what I tell people that have worked on staffs that I have some responsibility for over. You're expected to be the expert for your area in this building.
Facts. Which
so
is
I should not, like, you should be telling me what Facebook groups you're a part of for your space. Right. You should be telling me who are the biggest voices, the influencers for your space. What are the latest books in your space? What are the latest conferences in your space? And if I have to come tell you that, that's a problem.
Right. Yep. You need to be that person. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Work on improving emotional intelligence. That's big. Listen to 3 or 4 podcasts and read 3 or 4 blog posts each week. Take 2 or 3 courses in an area of interest. That's cool. Reach out for help with someone else. Acquire at least 1 new skill this year. Become comfortable with your presentation skills. Design your own health and fitness program. Plan 2 great trips a year. And that's it. That's 10, right?
Yeah. Those are 10 great things to do to educate yourself. I think that's a good list for sure.
Yeah. Pastor John, how do you keep track of your notes that you take from podcasts and learning environments?
So I just started using a new database called Obsidian that I've been trying to get Pastor Christopher. I
walked right into that one. Oh,
you ready for this haymaker? No, but here's the crazy part about it. I have a podcast app called Snipped that actually does snips for you and puts them into my database. So as I'm listening, it snips portions that are highlights for the podcast and puts them into my note-taking database so that I don't have to write them down as I'm driving, because I'm usually, look at there, man. Michael Knox says he's been using it every single day. And guess what? He reached out to me and was like, hey, man, I saw your screenshot. I want to have a conversation with you. Sat down with me for 20 minutes, and now he's been using it every single day. I ain't even, listen, this was not even intentional. I didn't invite him to this conversation. But so yeah, I used that and used the Snip app for
I muted his mic, y'all. He was looking like, what happened? I muted him.
I saw it said the host has muted your mic. Haters, man. Hey, don't ask questions you don't want answers to. You hear me?
So here's the truth, man. I really was asking the question genuinely. I wasn't even thinking about Obsidian. I was thinking about our listeners, because if you're like me and you're like you and others that are probably watching this or may watch this, I mean, you have to find a way to organize the information you're receiving. So that's what I was thinking about. Like, where you
at the baseline level, I would suggest people looking at Snipped, which is a podcasting platform that takes snippets from the actual podcast, and it uses AI to take like some of the best portions of the podcast, and it's really pretty good at that. So if you haven't used it, I would suggest using it. I use it primarily now. I used to use the podcast app itself, but now I just use Snipped, and it's been great.
But you're talking about your podcast, or you're talking about anybody's podcast?
Anybody's podcast. You can bring it. You can you can just search it in Snipped, and it brings the entire feed over. Yeah. And as you listen, you can hear it just take notes for you as you go. So yeah.
So this sounds like Sermon Shots, because I'm actually a partner with Sermon Shots, and they do an amazing job over there. So that's what this sounds like.
Pretty much. Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Love it. All right. So part of what we're saying is, if you're a learner, and you're educating yourself, you're taking initiative, whether that's books, podcasts, conferences, etc. So like Pastor John, in my Evernote, I have a folder specifically for conferences, podcasts, and sermons that I hear, that I put them in there, and I've got tags that I keep track of certain topics and that kind of thing. But you've got to have a way that you're keeping track of what you're learning, and
for sure.
Yeah, I think that's important. All right, where we at?
We got 14 minutes for about 7 more chapters.
We're not gonna get through the whole book. You already know what this is. I see my friend Girl in Christ is on with us. She hopped in. She's like, hopped on my YouTube for a moment. And here you are live, Pastor Christopher. Here I am in living color. Me and Pastor John. Love that.
And just so you know, this is the Christian Leaders Book Club. We go through a book a month, and we're doing our monthly conversation around a book called 48 Days to the Work and Life That You Love. And so we'd love for you to join the book club. If you haven't, Girl in Christ, we'd love for you to do that. But we've been having a conversation about this book. It's been pretty fruitful so far.
There you go. Love that. So chapter 4 was a good chapter for me.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed chapter 4, talking about the life plan, creating a life plan.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. What was your reaction to that chapter?
I thought it was really good. And, I like to synthesize content as well, right? So I kind of compared this to Michael Hyatt and Dan Harvody's Living Forward, other life plan books. And there are some other components that I could add to my life plan, but I was trying to see how they could kind of align. So I thought it was a pretty in line with what they were saying. So our goal should be to plan our work around our life rather than planning our life around our work. Was such a great quote that I highlighted there, just because as I'm creating my life plan, like I really want to carve out like, okay, what kind of work is going to fit into that plan? Which means you got mission statements for every area of life. But what kind of work fits into that is the perspective that I have. But I thought that was a good quote from that chapter for sure. Yeah,
I was very surprised and impressed that he created or drew a line of demarcation, the distinction between vocation, career,
Yeah.
job. I thought that was really good because not a lot of authors will do that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. And they're very different.
Not a lot of, yeah, they're very different. So I thought that was really, really good. Let me read. Let me see if I can find it really fast. I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll over here. Looking at the clock too. We may have to come back to it.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. The Soren Kierkegaard quote. And now, with God's help, I shall become myself.
Kierkegaard.
Yeah. So, yeah. So this notion that, let me say it this way. There's a lot of people that are working every day and they're not themselves. They literally have to take themselves off to go to work.
Talk. Yes, sir. It's true.
And it's that group of people who can't wait until Friday.
Yeah, that's the TGIF folks, man, for sure. Yeah.
That's a dangerous place to be.
Absolutely, it is, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to cover in this chapter? I know our time is gone and going.
No, I think we're good. Chapter 5, success is more than a job. I like his process for decision making. I like processes. So state the problem, get the advice and opinions of others, list alternatives, choose the best alternative, and then finally, most importantly, do something.
Do something.
Act.
Do something.
Yeah.
He alludes to this in the wheel that he has on page 83 about legacy. So I think that's important to just kind of quickly highlight. In our discussion here, I think that was really, really important. You skipped over this. But I think it's important to acknowledge that sometimes to be effective, you got to choose an alternative. Like there's a lot of people that are, I'm going this way, right? Yeah. And you get down the road and realize, maybe this is not the best option. You got to learn to pivot sometimes. And I think a lot of people blame God on their lack of pivoting.
Ooh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I think okay, so you switched careers.
Yeah.
You became an attorney. You went to school, you became an attorney, and then you switched careers. This is an on-the-spot question, so we didn't pre-plan this. Was there something that you knew in undergrad that suggested to you then that you should have probably went to seminary?
Yes. Because I was already teaching and preaching, so to speak, in smaller spaces without the tools I needed. And so I'd seen kind of the small sense that there was a call there, but the Lord still led me to law school. And here's the thing, Pastor Christopher, I didn't know until after the fact that I went there for a reason, which is some of the work I'm doing now as a pastor in spaces where social advocacy and civic engagement is necessary. So yeah, I would say, yes, I knew then, but because of my unique path, the Lord still led me to go to law school and then seminary, which I think was the path for me.
I like that. I wonder if there are people who end up wasting time, money, and effort because they're scared to pivot.
That's a good question.
They're scared to explore alternatives.
Yeah. And when I made the pivot from practicing to ministry, like I really had to make that decision. Like it had to be a real pivot and not like dabbling. Like, I'm gonna dabble in it while I do this. No, I had to make a pivot.
So confession, I don't know if you dealt with this or not. So I used to be, I've always been in ministry, but when I grew up, all the pastors that I knew were dual vocational, meaning not bivocational, but they were dual vocational. They were full-time in ministry, but also had a full-time job somewhere else. So I thought that was the norm. So when I was in higher education, for the period that I was in higher education, and then I shifted gears to do ministry full-time, to leave higher education, I'd never forget, Pastor John, I was sitting in my office. This was within like the first 2 weeks of working in ministry full-time. And I never forget the shiver that went down my spine when the thought hit me, your salary is now based on tithes and offerings.
Yes. And
It's
not revenue from any product or offering or nothing. It's your tithes and your offering.
This is not billable hours.
Not at all, brother. Not at all. So that's a faith journey in and of itself, like a leap of faith, right?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people think about that perspective when it comes to people that are in full-time ministry. Right? Because that's why so many pastors felt the weight of ministry at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh Lord, what are we gonna do?
Seriously, bro. That like a lot of people felt that way, because it's like now the bottom line is gonna be hit for sure. If people ain't in seats, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Man, listen, I got one quote from this chapter that's really profound, and I was like, man, I gotta say it. So
it's probably gonna be the same one I got. Starts with perfectionism.
No, it's another one.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll do mine first. So Frederick Buechner, the place God calls you is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. My goodness. I was ready to open the doors of the church right there after that one, bro.
What? Come on.
It's so true, man.
It's
like
so true.
Where the hunger of the world meets your deep gladness is exactly what you're called to. Huh?
So true, man.
What was yours?
It was actually his quote, Dan Miller's quote, about perfectionism. Perfectionism is not as much the desire for excellence as it is the fear of failure couched in procrastination.
Ooh. Couched in procrastination.
What?
Hey, that's true, man. That is absolutely true. There were some good nuggets here, man. Some good nuggets here, bro.
Yeah, this is good, man. This is good. We got 5 minutes.
5 minutes, man. What we gonna do?
So the book, I would encourage people to get the book because it does have a link to some worksheets for people that want to utilize those. I downloaded the worksheets. Some of them are good and some of them are not so good.
Hey, being honest. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's just do this for the sake of time. So we got chapter 6 is the cure for divine discontentment. Chapter 7 is show me your promo materials. Chapter 8 is 6 job offers in 10 days. I think that title of that chapter was a little misleading. I get where he's going with it, but the title is a little misleading.
I really know that was not what the chapter was really about, but yes, I got you.
Chapter 9 is do you like me? Do I like them? Chapter 10 is show me the money. I actually thought that was a good chapter to help people because a lot of people don't get into salary negotiations,
which is important, man. Yeah.
Yep. Chapter 11 is being the boss you always wanted to have. And then chapter 12 is dream, plan, and act. And those last 3 chapters or so were actually, I think, pretty solid chapters. At least expose people to, even the whole notion of having an elevator pitch and viewing your resume and how you put it together. All those things I think are really, really important. There's some stuff that he went really long on.
I think so too.
Okay, you could have ended that probably 7 or 8 pages earlier, but I get it. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think so too. But all in all, a decent book, I would say.
Yes. Yes.
So if you are looking for content around discernment, job life discernment, it's a book that you might want to pick up to grab for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave that where it is. That's good. It's good. It's a good book. And here's what I text Pastor John. I said to Pastor John, probably not a book that you're going to walk away saying, oh my God, every page was amazing. But I do think that if you're serious about at least having a framework of understanding resumeing, interviewing, cover letters, life planning, it touches all the bases. And it's just a good resource to have in your library.
And to your point, Pastor Christopher, like we're not in that season of life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if somebody is, it might be higher on that scale, right? Where it's like,
Yeah,
oh man,
they've never been exposed to the stuff we've been exposed to.
Yeah.
You know, this might be like gold to them.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So just to be fair there for sure. This is good, man.
Yeah, Pastor John. Next month we're going to deal with this book called Up From Nothing. Right here.
Yep.
The untold story of how we all succeed, and it's by John Hope Bryant. Do we need to do any disclaimers or setups in light of the current environment that we are in, socially or politically?
I think so. And to be candid with you, this might fall in the category into one of the books where it's like I don't agree with everything he says, at least from my perspective, but at the same time it's worth exploring, because this is like, okay, so February last year we did reparations. It was a heavy book, bro. So like just similar disclaimers, just like, hey, we're getting into faith, race stuff and cultural, political climate stuff that you got to be prepared to be able to kind of talk about and deal with and handle. And that's what this book really, really addresses.
Yeah. This is going to be good. It's going to be necessary. What I find is uncomfortable information is actually sometimes good for us to at least be able to challenge us to think about and reflect on.
Yep. You hit it on the head. It's going to be a good conversation, Pastor Christopher. Because honestly, if I'm talking about that book alongside the reparations book, that's interesting conversation companions.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So we shall see.
So I put the link for our email list in the chat as well. So you all check that out. Would love to have you join our email list so you can stay plugged into us. Pastor John's social media handles are right there below on the screen. So I would encourage you to check him out. My social media handle is Handle, but handles for all of my platforms are there underneath my name. Connect with us as well. If you're on Substack, I am not, but if you're on Substack, Pastor John wrote a very sobering discourse that came out this morning about the doctrine of idolatry and the hypocrisy in disguise. And I would invite you to go check that out. He's got it linked to his Facebook page. I believe a very loving, gracious, historically accurate, biblically sound, and very personable writing.
Thank you.
I haven't finished reading it, but I've read enough of it to put that kind of endorsement on it. And Pastor John, thank you for putting your neck out there, speaking truth to power and addressing something. And the way you addressed it is undeniable because this is your reality. This is your experience, and people can't deny that. So
appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, boss. Yeah, man. Well, we 1 month in, man. We about to start causing some good trouble here soon.
Woo! Hey, and to be clear, not the kind of good trouble that my son was talking about when he had 2 different young ladies follow him on Instagram. He came downstairs talking about, I'm about to get in good trouble. No, son, that is not what John Lewis was talking about.
Oh, man, that's hilarious.
I'm a parent of teenagers. You hear me?
Oh, teenage boy, black boy. I love the black boy joy there, man.
He said, Dad, I'm about to get in good trouble.
Not that son. Kind of trouble, son.
Not that kind of good trouble. No, we're not doing that. We're not.
Oh,
at least he had enough context to give the reference. I like it.
That's right.
I'm okay with that.
I like that part.
Yeah.
Appreciate
it. All right,
you,
everybody. This is the Christian Leaders Book Club, our monthly gathering for learning, growing a community with one another, with like-minded people. That's Pastor John. I'm Pastor Christopher. We'll see y'all next month.
Y'all take care.